Computer. All right, so today we're going to talk about chapters 3, 4, and 5. Try to get covered those three chapters. I know we kind of wrapped up relatively quickly with chapters 1 and chapters 2, but what is, based on the information that we covered last week, what is one of the more surprising things that you learned about what we talked about throughout the class? Something that you walked away and be like, wow, I didn't know that before. Yes. Yeah. So how many different brands are underneath like the umbrella brands of Hilton, Hyatt, and then there's even independent hotels. The hotel that we're staying at in Houston is called the Royal Sonesta. So Sonesta is another type of brand like Marriott. We have a Sonesta extended stay downtown San Antonio. So yeah, excellent. Anybody else? Yeah, the amount of Holiday Inns there are, absolutely. Are y'all familiar with the La Quinta brand hotels? You know where the first La Quinta started or was built? Here in San Antonio. Yep, right downtown. It was built for the 1968 World's Fair. Um, so the La Quinta, the very first La Quinta was built here. It's right where the Denny's is. There's a La Quinta right next door, but where the Denny's is where the original location of the first one was, and then they built that other one. What else? Go ahead, Leah.
Um, I also just realized that, this industry is, not necessarily easy, but it's kind of complicated. I mean,
It
there's so
is.
much to do. And, like a biology or pre-med major may go, oh, well, you're taking easy classes, and you're taking, not
Yeah,
necessarily, because dealing with people is one of the most complicated things you'll ever deal with.
yeah, absolutely. So it's funny you say that because sometimes I tell people I teach hotel management. They're like, "That's a college degree," and I'm like, "Yeah, it is." And when I first started as a faculty member in 2015, Dr. Loston takes all the new employees on a complete tour of campus, like all the way through campus, into every building, every program, and we went to the health science building and we were in the surgery, this like the actual operating room. That's like it's like as if you're walking in to an operating room in a hospital, right? And they have this mannequin that gives birth. And so they literally just like open up the belly, put the baby in, and then it can deliver. They can program it to deliver breech, to have complications, to be normal. So these students are getting like this actual like practice, right? And I was like, man, my program of hotel management is like looking about this big right now. I was like, that's crazy. Now this is when we were in our old building, but I was just like, before I left, all of a sudden I was like, wait, no, because all these doctors and nurses, they need hotels to have conferences in so they can learn what's new and latest. They need hotels to stay in. And when they go to a hotel, they expect what? A clean room, friendly environment, welcoming environment. And so, yeah, we all have a place. And so you might think, oh my gosh, but yeah, if you've only ever been a guest, I can guarantee you that after you've taken a class like this, the next time you go to a hotel, you're going to look at that stay a little bit differently, right? My friends think I'm weird, but when I check out of my guest room, my room is ready to clean. And what does that mean? That means all of my trash is in one location, all of my towels in one location. I strip the bed, I take the pillows out of the pillowcases, and everything is ready to go. I put the iron back, I empty the water out. If I put water in there, I put the ironing board in. I open all the drawers, turn on all the lights, and open the shades. So when that housekeeper walks in the room, they're like, wow, this person knows what they were doing, right? Because why? I've been in housekeeping before. I've worked in housekeeping, and I'm like, this is a hard job. And so anything I can do, if you've never worked in housekeeping, you don't know what's on the other side of that door. It could be, now you probably have a good idea. If you just had a whole weekend of like a cheer competition and there's 4 kids per room, probably have an idea of what that room's going to look like when you open that door. Yeah, and hair everywhere. Yeah. So But I guarantee you that when you take a class like this, or even like a food class, the next time you go out and experience it, you'll be looking at it from a different lens, which I think is really interesting. All right. Any other comments about chapters 1 or 2? How many of you who are not hotel majors, they're hospitality majors, you're like, why am I in this class? Why am I learning about hotels? Hopefully you'll be able to at least appreciate that. Okay, as we go through. So let's take a look at chapter 3. We're going to start with a little quiz. So let me clear my screen. Go ahead and get your cell phones out. All right. So you can either scan the QR code, you can open the Kahoot app, or the kahoot.it is the web address, and just put that game pin in and we'll get started. Yep. You can play from a laptop if you go to the kahoot.it website. You can play from a laptop if you want to as well. While you do that, I'm going to go ahead and go back and take attendance. Okay. Here's me. Attendance. All is present. Just missing 2 today. That's fine. I can also log into one of these 2 computers if you want to use a desktop. Or 4. How many stages are in the guest cycle? 1, 2, 3, or 4? There we go. The most annoying music in the world. All right. There are 4 stages. We'll go over those a little bit. Joshua, where's Joshua? There you go. Thanks. Okay, so what is the first stage of the guest cycle? Try if you can log into the Wi-Fi, see if that might help.
You need to go over here.
So if you do the Alamo guest.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, it's just going to prompt you for an email address. That might help with the connectivity. All right, so the first stage of the guest cycle is the pre-arrival. It is not pre-reservation. It is not research. That's what happens during the pre-arrival stage. And it is not arrival. Okay. Leah, let me know when you're logged into Wi-Fi and we'll go to the next question. Chris maintaining his lead, only 60 points. Sorry, Josh is maintaining his lead. True or false? The departure stage is the first opportunity to make a lasting impression. True or false? The departure stage is the first opportunity to make a lasting impression. All right, that is false. Okay, what does departure mean? Leaving, right? So departure is our last opportunity to make that lasting impression. Okay. If anything goes wrong during the stay, that's our opportunity to make it right before they leave. PMS stands for all right, it is the property management system. Okay, property management system. Joshua maintaining his lead. Property management system integrates all programs in a hotel. True or false? All right, that is true. We'll talk about what those systems are. Again, this is just a high level overview. Oh, Chris overtook the lead. Here we go. True or false? Guests do not have access to the property management system. True or false? Guests do not have access to the property management system. All right, that is false. They do. Then it's a couple of ways, and we'll talk about that. All right, here we go. Alondra, third place. Excellent. Chris, second place. Does that mean Josh is on top? First place. Joshua, awesome. Okay, so let me take a picture of this so I remember. All right. Close that. Leave. And now let's go to our chapter 13, or chapter 3, sorry. Jumped ahead a couple months. What? SPC. It's not showing up. Oops. All right. So for chapter 3. Sorry, I need to charge my phone, otherwise it will die. There it goes. All right, so chapter 3, we're gonna talk about the guest cycle. What is the first stage of the guest cycle? Pre-arrival, okay? So what is a cycle to begin with? When you hear the word cycle, what do you think about? A pattern, repeats itself, okay? So this is our guest cycle. What types of cycles do we have besides the guest cycle? Just in life in general. Water cycle, life cycle. What else did I hear? Motorcycles, okay. different use of the word cycle. Okay, so the cycles, they repeat themselves. Okay, pre-arrival, and then what's the second stage, do you think? Arrival, okay. So someone said check-in, absolutely. So that's arrival. And then what was the last stage? Departure, I heard someone say that. And so in between of arrival and departure, what stage is number 3? where they stay. So we're gonna call that occupancy. Okay. So pre-arrival, there's different things that happen at each stage of the guest cycle. What is something that happens during the pre-arrival stage? What is the guest doing during the pre-arrival stage? So does someone say walk in? Okay. So they may just be walking in, what we call a walk-in reservation, right? Or walk-in guest. They don't have a reservation, so they're just walking in and asking for information, right? And they're doing their research on so how do people do research for hotels? How do you look for hotels? Google. Okay, what else? Yelp. Good. TripAdvisor. So they're doing all of these things, and what are they looking for during that pre-arrival stage? Availability. Good. What else? The price. What else? Sorry? How close it is to wherever they're going, right? Let's say they're coming in from out of town and they're going to a concert at the Alamo Dome. Okay, they may want to know how close is their hotel to the Alamo Dome. Okay, one of my friends, she used to own the Comfort Inn and Suites downtown, and back in 2018, we had the Final Four here. She put a block of rooms into basically into a room block, like for a group reservation. And then right before the Final Four, like a month or so before, she released those rooms back out into her inventory at a $500 per night with a 4-night minimum, meaning you had to stay 4 nights. Even if your team got knocked out in the first round, you still had to stay the last 2 nights, right? So $2,000 for a Comfort Suites hotel. And she sold out those last few rooms, right? That's what we call revenue management. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the semester. But the Comfort Inn and Suites is within walking distance of the Alamo Dome. So parking that day was going for anywhere from $50 to $75 for parking. So you think if you could just walk to the game, that's $75 right there that you're saving, right? And so there's different ways that you can look at what are important features during that pre-arrival stage. And then during the pre-arrival stage, that's when they make the actual reservation. Okay, that's when the reservation record is made. And we'll talk about what goes into that in just a moment. And then the arrival, they are showing up to the hotel. Okay. So our reservations now goes to registration. Registration. Okay, so we go from reservation to registration. We're registering them into the hotel. Occupancy, obviously they're in our hotel, okay? And then the departure is when they leave, okay? And then all of their information goes into their guest history file. Goes into their guest history file, okay? So let's talk about this in a little bit more detail. Anybody ever experienced this before? 9 a.m. on a Saturday, the guest doesn't understand why they can't check in when they arrive. What time is check-in? 3, depending on the property, 3 to 4 p.m., right? Why do we have check-in at 3 or 4 p.m.? Housekeepers have to clean the rooms, right? And checkout is at what time? 11. Sometimes it's 12. Sometimes I've actually seen it as early as 10. So housekeepers have 6 hours to clean the rooms, right? And so our guests, we have to remember when we're at the front desk that sometimes we have to re-educate our guests. How many of you have ever heard the phrase, the customer is always right? Okay, how many of you agree that that is true? Okay, it's not always true. Sometimes it is. It's not always true. And so we have, I think, and this is Mr. Uminski's opinion, okay, I think we have trained our customers and our guests to expect more and more and more and more. right? Because that's what we love about hospitality. We love to go above and beyond. We love to make people stay exceptional. Well, if we love to make people stay exceptional, then that's going to be their expectation the next time. So then if we try to go above and beyond that, we're just constantly in this like trying to raise the bar, right? So I think it's okay. I don't tell your bosses this, but I think it's okay sometimes just to meet expectations. Okay. Sometimes we can go over above and beyond, but sometimes if we just meet expectations, then we're doing a good job, right? Because they may have really high expectations. I'm one of those people that if I travel into an area, I'll ask, hey, are there any rooms available? And if they're not available, then no big deal. What can we do as a hotel front desk agent? Let's say somebody walks up to you with a big family. They want to check in because they want to go hit SeaWorld, right? And they want to check in at 9 o'clock on a Saturday. And you tell them, I'm sorry, we don't have any rooms available until 3. What options could you give them other than just saying, I'm sorry? Go ahead, Alondra. Yeah, we could store your luggage. Absolutely. We'd love to be able to hold your luggage for you. If you need to get anything out of there, go ahead and take care of that. And then we'll store your luggage and we'll get your shuttle to this park and you can go enjoy the park. And when you come back, your room will be ready. Okay. So offering things like that, instead of just saying, no, sorry, we don't have any rooms for you. And you obviously, if they're a big family, they got all their bags, everyone's ready to go. They're dressed like they're ready to go to the water park. Sometimes it's like, okay, well, we can't really accommodate you right now, but let's hold on to your bag so you don't have to store that in your car, or you don't have to, let's say they just got off the airport shuttle, they don't have anywhere to put those bags, right? So there's things that we can do to help our guests. Okay. So we are going to go through each one of these. And I normally pass, actually, I think I do have, let me see if I have my index cards in here. I used to have some index cards that were just randomly numbered. You know what? I have an idea. Pause, record, resume. Okay, cool. Thank you for your little cooperation, that little break. So with what we're going to do in the next 2 slides, when we talk about the we talk about the arrival stage, pre-arrival, the reservations coming in, the arrival stage, we need to look at a couple of different things. Okay. One of them is going to be the room status. And that basically tells me in my property management system, what is the status of that room at that moment. So I know whether it's available for me to sell, or if it's in the process of being cleaned, or whether it's going to be occupied and stay overnight with the same guest, right? Okay. And so let's go with the red cards first. Okay. Who has the red joker? Okay, you can choose. Do you want to go first or last? You want to go first. Okay. And then we're going to go in order of ace to 8. Okay. So what I want you to do is I want you to pick one of these items and tell me what it means. What is the definition of any one of these things on the list? Or if there's one that you don't know that you're not familiar with, you can ask what that is. Okay, what does that mean?
Means exactly what it means. Do not.
Yeah.
I hate this. One time I stayed at a hotel and I had the do not disturb sign, so I wanted to see them later. And housekeeping knocking on the door at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm thinking, why?
Yeah.
Sign
Yeah. So
do not.
Exactly. Do not disturb means that's an indication for the housekeepers to tell the front desk that they saw what we call D&D. Okay, so it's the short version, D&D, do not disturb. We saw that on the door. Okay, so then in the opposite situation from Leah, like Leah's in the room, she's trying to sleep. But if I leave the room because I'm in such a big hurry and I forget to take my do not disturb sign down, and I come back at 5 o'clock after my meetings and I think my room's gonna be nice and made up and I'm gonna be comfortable, and I go in and it's still a mess because the bed hasn't been made. Well, why was the bed not made? There was do not disturb, so the housekeeper did not disturb it, right? And so oftentimes when I was running housekeeping, Samantha, you're in housekeeping, right? What is your policy about a D&D? How many times does a room attendant have to go back to that room in a shift to indicate that they've tried multiple times? 3 times. Yes, and I have seen that practice popping up a lot of where housekeepers will leave either a little sticky note on the door that says, we came by, we noticed your do not disturb sign. If you need service, let us know at the front desk." Okay. That is a really good way of being proactive instead of being reactive. Meaning reactive is the guest comes back and they're complaining, "Why was my room not cleaned?" And then the front desk goes to the list and they see, "Oh, you had do not disturb, but we can get somebody up there," right? That's being reactive. Good. That exactly. So as they write down, I was there at 9 a.m., I was there at 10:15, I was there at this time. So that way the front desk can be armed with that, not armed, that sounds very aggressive. Equipped with that information. Okay, cool. Who has the ace of diamonds? Go ahead, Michael. Skipper means somebody who did not pay. They left without paying. We don't see that very often anymore. What we do see, which is kind of bad, but we do see credit card fraud, right? So skipper is somebody that left the room, they spent the night, but they didn't pay for it. So they probably used like a fraudulent credit card. So we couldn't process that payment, which means the hotel's not getting revenue from that room. Okay. We used to see that oftentimes where people would want to pay with cash at the end, or they want to pay with check, right? But now with things happening with more instant payments, that's why we want to swipe the card and not or have the chip, absolutely. That verifies the identification, and we need to make sure that there is a ID, and the name on the card and the name of the ID is matching the reservation, right? And so all of those things go into play to make sure that we get the revenue that we need. Yeah.
And that's what they do at the very beginning, before you make a reservation, at the front desk.
Yep.
And then you put the card, that's why they make you put the card.
Yes. Absolutely. So, and with the reservations, with that's with registration. Okay. So reservation, you can put a card on file for reservation purposes to hold it. We'll talk about what that means in just a minute. But we also want to actually physically swipe that card. Okay. I had an experience once with Hilton. I'm part of the Hilton Honors, right? And I can check in on the app, which means all my information saved on the phone in my account, right? And then I can just check in and I can go right to my room. And I went to this one hotel up in Dallas and it said, "I had a note, you got to come by the front desk." And I was like, "Well, that's weird. I've never happened that to me before." So I went and asked, and I wasn't upset. I was just curious. Also, I was really curious just from a hospitality perspective of like, "Ooh, this is interesting. I've never experienced this before." And he was like, "Well, we have a lot of people who open up Hilton Honors accounts with fraudulent credit cards. And if we don't swipe the cards, then we don't know until we go to process them at the checkout that's a fraudulent card. So anyone who is silver or below, blue or silver, blue someone who just signed up, and silver too, they made sure everybody came by to swipe the card. By the time you get to gold and platinum or diamond level, chances are you're probably not using a fraudulent credit card. Okay. So good question. All right, who has the 2 of diamonds? Alondra. Okay, what does that mean? Good. That means there is somebody in that room right then and there. Okay. Do we ever assign guests to rooms that are occupied? Unfortunately, it has happened.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, speaking from experience, I have assigned people into rooms. So it's interesting. I get a call from somebody. There's someone trying to open my door. And then 2 minutes later, someone's like, "I couldn't open the door." And I was like, "Oh, that's because when I didn't tell this to the guest, of course, you're like, 'Oh, I'm so sorry. I put the wrong number in. Let me reprogram your keys,' right?" Big situation, right? So the guest that's in the room, when I made those new keys, it canceled out their keys. Right? But then I have to make new keys for this guest, right? And not necessarily explain, but definitely apologize, right? What happened was I was in a big hurry. There's a big long line. And so rather than checking from vacant to occupied, I just went through the process and handed them their keys and they went on their way and I forgot. And then, yeah, that's how I ended up. I looked in the system, it said vacant. So whatever our computer said, that's what I was like, oh, let me put somebody in there. I didn't realize I'd already given somebody cards for that room, right? So how do you think as a front desk agent, what is the bare minimum that I could do to that guest that's in the room upstairs to make it right for them? Possibly vouchers, depending on the situation. We might give them a drink voucher because that's going to be cheaper than giving them a whole dinner. But what's as far as like getting them their keys, what's the bare minimum I can do? Yeah, calm down and come get. I have your keys at the front desk. Come on down anytime you swing by. You can just pick up your new keys, right? That's the bare minimum. If we wanted to go above and beyond, what would we do? What's that? Take them up to the room. I'm so sorry for that inconvenience. I've made some new keys. Give me about 2 minutes. I'll be up there. So that way they're expecting the knock on the door. And then you can give them the keys and get the old ones and you can exchange, right? So there's things we can do to make it right. And if we do that, if we offer to bring the keys up to the room, do we need to give them anything? Probably not, right? We're already going above and beyond, right? But if we want to say also, hey, you know what? Let me grab a Snickers bar as I walk past the pantry, you know, and you can be corny and be like, here's something to like sweeten the situation and here's your new keys, right? Makes the guest feel special, okay? But it happens, right? It happens to the best of us. So who has the 3 of diamonds? Go ahead.
Let's go for on change.
On change, what does that mean?
I don't know.
You don't know. Okay. So what do you think on change means just by looking at it? So it's in the process of being cleaned, right? So it's that means the guest has checked out and it's in the process of being cleaned. Okay. So that way you can look to see how many rooms do you have on change? And if you have no rooms available, if you have some rooms that are unchanged, you can maybe call up to that room. A lot of hotels are going digital now. So you can actually figure out how close that housekeeper is to being done with that room, and you can give the guest a better estimated time. Okay. So checkout means that they have checked out. On change means that the room is being flipped. Okay. What was that? 3, 4? No, we're gonna you have the clubs. Who has 4 of diamonds? Go ahead. Of course, yeah. DNCO, okay, is any guesses? Did not check out, which means the guest just left. Okay, which means it's different from a skipper, right? A skipper is someone who didn't pay. A did not check out is someone who just went to their car and left. They didn't stop by the front desk, drop off their keys. They're obviously gone. Okay. All their stuff's out of the room. They're supposed to be checked out. They just didn't stop by the desk for whatever reason. Okay. What issues do you see from an operational side of did not check out? Yep. How does it affect housekeeping? Yeah. Right. What time is checkout? 11. What if housekeeping is going by that room at 8 o'clock and they're already gone, but we don't know? And so housekeeping is just waiting for a checkout. And the whole time that room is vacant and it's empty, but they don't know that because they didn't check out, right? So again, from you as an industry professional, how many of you just walk by the front desk and just walk out the door? Be honest. Don't be afraid to admit it. Okay. So hopefully in the future, you will be, okay, you know what? Let me go ahead and check out. I even go as far as if I see the housekeeper in the hallway, before I even go to the front desk, hey, I'm checking out of room 304. That way they know that that room is ready to go, to be cleaned. Okay. Good. That was 4. Bless you. 5 of diamonds. Okay, Mark. Which one? Complimentary or out of order? Complimentary. What does that mean? What does complimentary mean? It's free. They're not paying for it. Okay. Why would we give a room complimentary to a guest? Yes. Yeah. So what we call guest service recovery. Okay. That's the industry fancy way of saying we made a mistake, we messed up. This is our guest service recovery. So we might give it complimentary for that. Good. What else? Okay, so they might have, if they are friends and family, or not friends, if they are like using their points, okay, we're not charging them for that. They're going to use their points to make the reservation. Okay, what else? Why would else we give something away for free? Okay, so maybe they know the owner, possibly. Okay, so what do you mean by business? Yeah. So when we have meetings, we have group meetings. Typically, depending on the hotel, depending on the groups, there is usually a 30 to 1, or it'll say 25 to 1. And what that means is for every 30 room nights of a group, they're going to get one free comp night. Okay. Let that sink in for a second. Every 30 nights of a conference, every 30 room nights, they get one comp night. Okay. So let's say they have a meeting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Okay. Monday, they're going to have 50 rooms. Tuesday, they're going to be their big room night. So that's going to be 200. And Wednesday, they're going to have 100. So how many total rooms is that? That's a 5. 350. So if my compensation is 30 to 1, that means I'm going to get how many? What's 350 divided by 30? 11 would be 330, right? That means they would get 11 complimentary nights. Okay. That means they can use it for their meeting planner. They can use it for the CEO of the company, right? So the company itself is not paying for that. So that's how that compensation, that complimentary works. Okay. Along the same lines of having business like this, if somebody's going to come to your hotel and they're going to bring a 3-day meeting and they're going to spend $1 million in food and beverage, do you think we could give them a complimentary night to come out before the conference so they can do a walkthrough space and they can set the menus, they can taste the menus, right? How many of you have ever heard that phrase, you got to spend money to make money? Same thing, right? We've got to give that complimentary room away. We may put them on a VIP list so that way the front desk understands who this person is. And then they're going to come back in turn and spend $400,000 with us in a 3-day meeting. So we can give that room away complimentary. That's what that complimentary means. Okay, what else? What was that, 5? 6. 6 of diamonds. All right, go ahead, Russell. Oh man, I just erased everything. Skipper, do not disturb, on change, complimentary, occupied, DNC. We did check out. That's right. Look at that. Good memory. All right, go ahead, Russell. Late checkout? Oh, I tied late checkout with on change. Sorry. Sorry, what did you said late checkout? Okay, what does that mean? Yes, they could have overslept, but really what late checkout means in this case is we're communicating with housekeeping that guest has requested a late checkout, which means they know they're not going to go and put that on their list of first rooms to clean. They're going to go clean other rooms before they come back to that one. So late checkout is a way for us to communicate to housekeeping that guest has requested a late checkout. Sometimes it's complimentary. Sometimes we charge them a fee for that, right? Why would we charge somebody a fee for a late checkout? It puts housekeeping behind schedule. Absolutely. The guest doesn't understand, well, why do we have to pay $50 for a late checkout fee? if I'm just checking out 1 hour later. Yes, Mrs. Smith, I understand that. Sorry, let's use Mr. Smith because I don't want to. Mr. Smith, I'm so sorry. This is our hotel policy. If you're gonna go, if you need to go spend some extra time, your flight doesn't leave till 8 o'clock tonight. What could you do as a front desk agent? What could you offer? I'll be happy to store your bags for you so you can go and enjoy the city for a little bit. You don't have to carry your bags with you, and then come back and our airport shuttle will take you to the airport. Okay, because that may just be the reason why they don't want to check out at checkout time is because they have a late flight that day, right? So there's all these different things. These are scenarios that you learn as you experience them. That's in our industry. It's some of the best way. There's so much to know. It's hard to learn it all from a textbook. It's impossible to do that. So it's really just about experiencing it. Excellent. That was 6, 7 of diamonds. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They could be out of order for a lot of different reasons. Okay. Those of you who work in hotels, what have you seen that has caused a room to go out of order? Okay, leaks, leaky toilets, the toilet that's always constantly running,
Smells.
ACs. Oh, smells for sure. Okay. I was up in Flagstaff a few weeks about a month or so ago, and I walked, and it was a Embassy Suites, and it looked like it was the Embassy Suites that had been like a hotel that was converted into an Embassy Suites. And I walked into my room, and I just like it smelled. It smelled. It smelled like musty, like an old hotel room, right? And I'm like, well, maybe it's just that's the way it is because this is an old hotel, right? And I was traveling on the Hilton Friends and Family, so I try not to make complaints because I don't want it to impact the person who added me to their Hilton Friends and Family rate. I don't want it to impact them, right? And so I don't typically make complaints when I'm on a Hilton Friends and Family rate. Um, I had literally driven from San Antonio. We left San Antonio at 8 p.m. the night before, and we drove all night long. I finally got to Flagstaff, and I was just exhausted. The next morning, I went to the front desk and I just asked, is there any way you could? I'm gonna go hiking, but I can come back and whatever. And they switched me into a room down the hall. It smelled perfectly fine, and I was like, okay, I wasn't just crazy. Because sometimes you do have to kind of make that. Is it okay to sell a room that's out of order? What do you think? Yes or no? Most of the time, no. Why do you say most of the time? Okay, depending on why it's out of order, right? If we're missing this specialty light bulb that's in the bedside reading lamp, okay, can I sell that room to a guest and just say, unfortunately, that light bulb is out. I hope that's not an inconvenience for you. I'm happy to sell it to you, and I'm happy to give you this discount for any inconvenience, right? I'd rather sell that room than get zero for it. Now, if because the toilet flooded and the whole carpet is soaking wet and it's still drying out, am I going to sell that room? No. Okay. I'm glad. I'm glad you all said no. Okay. Yeah. So, no, you wouldn't. You wouldn't at all, right?
Yes, you tell me. By the way,
Yeah. Yeah.
you, but it has a toilet water.
Yeah. No. No, exactly. In that situation, we would never even tell the guest. We wouldn't even tell that as an option. I would hope that you would never tell the guest that that's an option, right? You would just say, unfortunately, we're sold out tonight, right? But if it's my very last room and it's out of order because the TV is out, like the TV got broken and they don't have a TV in there, if I just say, you know what, unfortunately, I don't have a TV in that room, but you're welcome to I can give you a discounted rate on it, right? I'd rather do that than have that room go empty. Now, I say all that. Don't go back to your hotels and say, Mr. Uminski said we can sell out of order rooms. Okay. Yes. Uh-huh. Yes. Yes. Awesome. I like that. Yeah. So VIP sometimes when that if you have VIPs guests coming, then the housekeeping may take it out of order to do like a deep clean, right? One time I took my students to Hotel Emma and we were doing a tour and somebody asked about the Emma Kohler suite, which is like their big presidential suite. And the person giving the tour, she's like, "Oh, it's out. It's dirty." And so I was like, "Well, this is a housekeeping class, so we can see a dirty room and just kind of see what's on change because there's no way I'm going to be able to afford to see the inside of a $7,000 room, right?" And so I'm like, I want to see what this looks like. And so we went, and it was perfectly clean. And it was for that very reason, because it takes them anywhere from 4.5 to 6 hours to clean that room. Um, it's a loft. It has a living room. It has a baby grand piano. It has a little kitchen area. The bedroom's upstairs. It has a full terrace area outside. So they have the housekeepers have anywhere from 4.5 to 6 hours to clean that room. And they always put it on like out of order, not out of order, but like that it's dirty so they can go in and clean it a couple of days before since it's not rented all the time. All right. That was 6, 7. That was 7, 8. Go ahead. Good. That means front desk can sell the room. Okay. Vacant ready. Lockout. When we did not cover lockout, we locked the guests out of the room. You're like, wow, that sounds really harsh. Why would we lock a guest out of the room? Maybe they did something. Okay. Maybe we have a card issue. Okay. Maybe it's not necessarily a card issue, but maybe they are reaching their level of limit. So when we swipe that card, we're going to swipe that card for the cost of all of their room plus an incidental per day. So like $50 per day, $100 per day. And if they're out there charging up things to room service, that's going to get pretty close. We may have to just reauthorize their card for a higher balance, right? And that's okay. It happens. Here's the thing about lockouts though, okay? And again, this is where you can train your front desk staff. Yes, we locked a guest out. Are we going to tell them we locked them out? No. What's going to happen? They're going to come to the front. They're like, my key's not working. Oh, I'm so sorry for that. Let me check. Right? And we check the system. I'm not going to say, oh, you're locked out of the room. Right? We don't say that. We're just going to say something along the lines of, I'm so sorry for the inconvenience. It looks like you are close to what we pre-authorized your card. We need to reauthorize your card so you can continue enjoying room service, right? Say it like that instead of, oh, we locked you out. It's the same message, completely different way that it's received, okay? Stay over is somebody who is not checking out. They're staying over the night, okay? So that tells housekeeping that we're either gonna go in and just do like a quick 15-minute touch-up, make the beds, replace the linens, or replace the towels and add any amenities that were used, right? Pick up trash versus a checkout, which is someone's gonna have to do a full clean of that room, okay? And then due out is somebody who is due to check out. All right, now let's switch to the clubs. Who has the black Joker card? Okay, hold on, don't tell me your name, What's the first letter? Oscar, okay? Oscar, do you want to go first or last? You'll go last. Okay, he's going daring. All right, who has the ace of clubs? All right, Giselle. So these are, sorry, let's real quick. Let me give you a quick introduction. These are different types of rooms that we have in the hotel. So why do you think it's important to know what types of rooms we have when we're making the reservations? Think about when we're making reservations. Why is it important to know what room types we have in the hotel? What's available to sell? Okay, good.
I'm looking for a double.
Yep, exactly.
No, I'm sorry, those are all sold out.
Exactly. So a lot of them have to do with bed configuration and the size of the room. Okay. So Giselle, pick one and tell us what you think it is, or if you have a question about something. Connecting. You're jumping right into that. Okay. Awesome. What does connecting mean? So they join together, okay? I'm gonna do a little diagram right here. This is two sides of a hallway in a hotel, okay? These are our doors into the guest rooms, okay? So connecting, let's do it in blue. Connecting means that there is an actual physical door connecting the rooms, okay? So connecting means there's an actual door in between. You don't have to go out to the hall to get to the next door room, okay? Excellent. Who has the two of clubs? Anybody have the two of clubs? I think the two is missing, actually. Who has the three of clubs? All right, go ahead. Adjacent. So what does adjacent mean? Okay, so adjacent just means nearby. So these two rooms could be adjacent. Why? Right across the hall from each other. Okay. Obviously, these could also be adjacent because they're right next to each other. Okay. And so if a guest asks, I need a room that's adjacent to another one, that reservation agent can ask what? Follow-up questions like, do you need a door connecting those rooms? Because if they just say adjacent, the reservation agent says, okay, great, I've got two rooms that are adjacent. The guest expectation might be connecting, they're using the wrong terminology. So it's an opportunity for us to educate them. And we're gonna say, oh, you wouldn't say something like, oh, dummy, you mean connecting rooms, right? We wouldn't say that. We would just say something like, oh, in the future, when you're making this reservation, if you ask for connecting rooms, we'll try to make sure we have a room that has the doors going through, right? So I like to use that word in the future. So it's like you're educating somebody, but in a nice kind of professional, polite way of saying that. Oh, in the future, don't make this mistake again. Okay. So adjacent, good. 3, 4 of clubs. Okay, so tell us about a mini suite or junior suite. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So a mini suite or junior suite, I'm going to put also suite in the same thing, right? Typically has they call it a parlor. That's so old fashioned. It's basically a living room, right? So a living area and a sleeping area. It could all be in the same room, or they could have walls, right? So living area, sleeping area. But it could all just be one big open room, like a studios type suite. Okay. Why do you think people like suites?
More space.
There's more space. Good. Possibly privacy, right? Absolutely. It sounds fancy.
So when you think.
Yep. Yeah. And when you think about something like Embassy Suites or La Quinta Inn and Suites, when it has the name in it, that primarily means the main type of rooms are suites. So in Embassy Suites, all the rooms are suites, right? So their standard is going to be a suite. Then we might have a junior suite, which is between a regular suite and a presidential. Okay, presidential is usually like the largest. So the junior suite might be somewhere in between, a little bit larger than a regular suite. Okay, good. What was that, 4, 5? Double double. What does double double mean? Yeah, double with 2 beds, and they're both double beds. Okay, double double. Excellent. 5, 6. Studio. Okay. Do you have a question about studio, or do you think? Okay, good. Yeah, you might see in studios, you might see like what we call extended stay properties. They have like a little small kitchenette in there, right? And so Homewood Suites, Home2 Suites, Candlewood Suites, Residence Inn, those are all examples of extended stay properties where they have like small little kitchenettes in them. So you can actually, I mean, they have glassware, plateware, silverware, pots and pans even. So you can cook. So if you're there for a long time, sometimes people, for whatever reason, they're displaced, maybe because of a home renovation or an accident in their home that they need to be, you typically will go to a extended stay type property where they can spend more than just a week or so. So it gives them that opportunity. Kind of feels a little bit like home. All right. What was that? 7, 8? Oh, 7. Sorry. King. Okay. What does that mean? Got a king size bed in it, right? Good. Excellent. 8. Okay. So adjoining means what? So let's look at what we've already talked about adjacent and connecting. So how is adjoining different from adjacent? They share a wall. So this would be an example of adjoining. They share a wall, but there's no door that connects. Okay. So again, a guest may say, oh, I want an adjoining room. Because the guest thinks when you say joining, that means they're together, right? And we could give them an adjoining room, and they're going to call on the front desk and they're like, I asked for an adjoining room, and there's no door connecting. In our head, we're like, yeah, that's what you got. You got what you asked for. But what we say out loud is, Mr. Smith, I see that you requested an adjoining room. That means that they're side by side with an adjoining wall. In the future, let me see if I have any connecting rooms available. That's where there's a door that connects the two rooms. So in the future, when you make a reservation, if you ask for a connecting room, we can try to avoid this miscommunication. Okay? Yes. I mean, it may be like, let's say you're traveling with a family and you just want your kids right next door, but you don't want a door that goes in between. All right. Let's say they're older kids, they can be by themselves, but you don't want them on a different floor. Right. So when you make that reservation, you want to make sure that they're in close proximity. Good question. All right. What was that? 8, number 9, 9 of clubs. All right. Twin, what does that mean? There's a twin bed in there. Yeah. There's a twin bed. You're like, wait a minute, hold on. Hotels have twin size beds. Anybody have that thought? Yeah. When I went, this was probably 2015, I think it was 15 or 14. I went to go visit my friends in Scotland. And so she and her husband and I was in a single room. And I walked in, there was a twin size bed. I was like, what? Okay, this is cool. This is a cool experience, right? Also, when I traveled with the San Antonio Master Singers, we went to Italy in 2013, I think. And all of the rooms had 2 twin size beds pushed together to make a king bed. Right. So when you walk in the room, it looks like there's a king size bed. And I'm like, all right, who's sleeping on the floor? Because I'm not sleeping with this stranger that I don't know. I sing with like 3 hours a week. I don't need to spend a night with you in bed. But then we take the big comforter off and we realize it's 2 separate twin size beds. I'm like, okay, this is manageable. We can do that. So very different from an American perspective, traveling into an overseas. All right, who has number 9? Was that the last one? Was that 9? Okay, cool. So the one thing that we didn't cover is these right here. Well, queen obviously is the queen bed. Single, double, triple, and quad just basically refers to the occupancy. So is there 1 person, 2 people, 3 people, or 4 people in that room? So we could have a triple suite, meaning there's 3 people staying in that suite. Okay, triple occupancy. Questions, comments, concerns about this? All right. Moving right along. Different things that we're going to be looking at from the front office perspective. We're gonna be looking at our reservation files. So reservation versus registration. Reservation means beforehand. Registration is when they actually arrive, okay? So a lot of the information from the reservation is gonna automatically transfer over to our registration file. That's what the property management system does, okay? It allows us to connect those things. So, oh, I thought I had a question on there. I guess I don't. What are some examples of things that we need to have on a reservation file? Piece of information we need to have on a reservation. Phone number, good. What else? Good. Credit card information. Address, absolutely. Email, what? The birth date. Why is birth date important? We want to make sure that they're actually old enough to rent that room. Okay, in some states, you have to be at least 18 or you have to be at least 21 to rent a hotel room. So that's why we check IDs, not only just for the name, but also to verify the age is appropriate. Okay, what else do we need to have on reservation file? What's the most important information? The name of the person. Absolutely. We need to know who's checking into our hotel. Okay. What type of room they need? What day they're arriving, what day they expect to check out. All that information goes into that reservation. And then once that reservation comes in, the guest checks in, we do go into our registration. Now, one thing that's really important to note is the difference between a debit card and a credit card. When we swipe that credit card or a debit card, what are we doing when we swipe that? We're making sure it works good. It's a valid card, valid form of payment. But what else are we doing? We're going to put a funds on hold, right? So if my room is $100 per night, they're staying 3 nights. I got $300 in room plus taxes. So let's just call it $320 per night or $20 per night. So let's call it $360. Okay. Plus we have a $50 per night incidentals. So 360 plus 150 is 510. Okay. I'm going to pre-authorize that card for $510 to make sure that when they check out and I post that payment, it's going to go through. Okay. With debit cards, when I charge the guest that $510, okay, it's going to charge the guests at that point. So I've got a hold of $510, okay, and I have a charge of $510. That guest is going to go look at their bank statement and be like, you charged me twice, right? I've got $1,020 on hold because you've charged me twice. Well, no, I didn't charge you twice. The first one was a hold. And it's up to your financial institution to release that hold once they realize that you've been actually charged. So with debit cards, we have a concern that it ties up those funds. So what if somebody has like an automatic draft payment that those two charge, well, the charge and the hold causes their account to go into the negative, right? That's something we can control. So we have to explain to the guests, and most of the times now, we have to train our front desk to look for that little debit word on the card, because a MasterCard, a Visa could be a credit card or it could be a debit card. If we see debit, we want to make sure that we explain to the guests what happens. Okay. Mrs. Smith, I noticed this is a debit card. We're going to put the funds on hold now. We're going to charge you for the amount at the end. And then your bank is going to have to release that first initial hold. So what we can do is if you have a credit card that you want to put on now, and then when we check out, we can charge the debit card, right? We can update the method of payment at that time. So that way you don't have that double funds on hold, right? So there's different ways that we can work with our guests for that. Occupancy, once they're in there, we have our guest folios. Folio is just the industry terminology for a transaction of all the charges. I'll show you a folio here in just a second. And then as the guest checks out, the departure, all that information goes into the guest history files. Okay, so an example of a folio from, oh my gosh, this was my last conference right before the pandemic. Checked out on 3/1/2020. So this is a conference I went to up in Dallas. You can look to see everything is organized by, this is the date of the transaction. So 3/1 is my checkout date. But if you look, we have 3 different days. So every day, that night audit, which we'll talk about in a later chapter, that night audit is going to post my room rate, the taxes. This says exempt, which means I am state sales tax exempt. I don't pay the state sales tax, but I do pay city and other taxes. I believe, I want to say the state sales tax is 6% of the hotel occupancy tax. Let's take a look real quick, because I don't remember exactly off the top of my head. I should know that. Yep, 6%. All right. Yes. So when I'm traveling for work, because I'm in education, I'm traveling for work. So based on whatever purpose I'm traveling, I have to provide that tax exempt form that then the hotel has to turn in to show why they did not accept, why they didn't charge for tax in this area. Yeah. So I have to turn in a form for that to happen. All right. Good question. So that also, Leah, again, goes back to, we know we have a big group in house and we know that's an educators conference. If somebody checks in and they don't have that form, we could ask them, do you need a copy of the form? Right? And so that's going to help us at the checkout time. When they come to check out, they're like, oh my gosh, I forgot my form 3 days ago. And now I have to go back and do all these transactions to take that tax off. Whereas if I can ask the guests when they check in, are you here for the conference? Yes, I am. Oh, did you bring your tax exempt form? If they didn't bring it, then let me have a stack of them right here. Here, fill this out for me real quick so we can make sure we apply that. Okay. Oh my gosh, that makes your life so much easier. Okay. Again, being proactive instead of reactive. So our property management system, we have different types of systems. So reservation software connects to our rooms management. So the rooms management tells us all the room statuses. Okay. How many room types, Chris, do y'all have at the Hilton Garden Inn?
This is my knowledge.
3 or 4? Okay, cool. Some hotels have multiple room types, right? It may have to do with the view of the room, like if it's a downtown view or if it's a Riverwalk view. They may have room types of, is it near the courtyard? Is it a suite? Is it a single? Is it a double? Is it a king? So all those room types, that's what our rooms management system software does. It connects all of that. The accounting manages all of our folios. The general management helps us analyze the revenue that's brought in for each day. And then other various statistics that we're looking at to make sure that we are operating in a good way, okay? So all of this are different types of software, different types of programs, and they come all in together with the property management system. What property management system do y'all use for housekeeping? Or software do you use for housekeeping at Estancia? OnQ, okay, excellent. Opera is one of the biggest kind of property management systems that a lot of, I think Marriott uses Opera. There's a variety of different ones. Okay, so point of sales, those are things that we are actually going to, let's say the front desk, okay, that's my point of sales. If I have a cafe, the servers ring in the information. Guest operated, that are things that the guests can actually do. So they can purchase games on their TV, they can purchase room service, all those different things. that are going to be guest operated for them to do as far as connecting to the property management system. I have not stayed in a hotel like this. I have heard of hotels with the minibar situation, where if you remove a bottle from the minibar, it automatically registers and charges you for it right then and there. What's that, Mandalay Bay?
Make sure you put in the middle of the area, it charges you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay, we'll talk about inroad in just a second. Any questions about the guest cycle and the different types of information that we get in that we gather from our guests, from the reservations and things like that? All right. So now, speed round. Let's play chapter 3 again and see if you can beat your previous score. And see if we have different people on the podium. Bum, bum, bum.